Hey guys, it's the WalterFootball.com After Dark show for March 7, 2024. Going to be doing some NFL free agent signing grades today. I thought I was going to be joining Kenny tonight, but Kenny had some plans and he might come on the show on Saturday instead. He had some sort of conference or whatever. I'm not quite sure what he had, but he did ask if he could come on the show later in the week. Tomorrow Tom's on, but I think as long as Kenny can do it on Saturday, he can be on Saturday. So always look forward to having Kenny on the show. But yeah, flying solo tonight. And should warn at any point my daughter could wake up. She's been waking up around this time for the past few days. So if that happens, I'll have to come rescue her. But yeah, didn't really have like a clear topic to talk about. It's kind of like the dead week between the combine and free agency. But there have been some cuts today. There were some signings that happened today and a few days ago. So I thought I'd talk about all the signings that have happened so far in free agency or the pre-free agency period. So yeah, going to get into all that. But yeah, please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. All that mean a lot to us. If you really want to help support the show, please consider super chats. I'm not lying that we get nothing through YouTube ads. I actually just looked at the revenue from last night's episode with Jacob when we did the quarterback destinations. We made exactly $1, like right on the dot from that show. So the YouTube ads pay absolutely nothing, as I've said so many times. So yeah, I mean, we get some super chats like here and there, and any super chats to come in are really appreciated. Really help help keep the show going. Because YouTube ads do not keep the show going, unfortunately. All right. So, and also, if you guys want to comment anything, really, it doesn't have to be about this. Doesn't have to be about football. I'll answer anything. You guys know that I do that. So, all right. So, starting back in February, the late February, we had a signing, just one re-signing. Demarcus Robinson re-signed 1 year, $5 million. I was kind of surprised by this. I thought that he would get like a 3 year, $30 million contract. Like, not that he's worth it, but we've seen receivers get so much money over the years. I feel like Gabe Davis is going to get like an insane contract, like 5 years, $50 million. The teams go nuts with re-signing receivers. And when I saw Demarcus Robinson have some really good games down the stretch, I'm like, some team's going to overpay him. But he didn't even hit free agency. He just re-signed with the Rams. I feel like his agent did him wrong here. I thought maybe he should have seen what Robinson could have gotten on the open market. But I think this is a great deal for the Rams. Just 1 year, $5 million. There's no risk here at all. If he flops, they're not punished for it. But he was really good down the stretch. Like I said, like he became a viable third receiver, and that's going to be important because the Rams they lost Tyler Higbee to an injury. It's a torn ACL that he suffered in the playoffs. So I highly doubt that he's going to be ready by the start of the season. Like he may not even play at all. I do like Davis Allen, the spicy meatballs Kenny and I refer to him as. He's the backup tight end. He's a young player and he has some potential. But I think with Higbee injured, it's important that the Rams have a third receiver like Robinson, who's pretty dependable. So I like this deal. Like I said, there's some upside, but there's really no downside. The next one is a more prominent receiver, Mike Evans. So he resigned a couple of days ago to a 2 year, $56 million contract. And it was kind of a surprise because the day before, Evans was talking about how he wanted to go to a team with a franchise quarterback who can help him win the Super Bowl in his in the final years of his career. He's 31 now. But then the next day he just re-signed with the Buccaneers, who don't have a quarterback on the roster right now. Like Baker Mayfield is a free agent now. He may resign. Like there have been rumors saying that he resigns. And I said this yesterday to Jacob, and I think that I think this signing kind of telegraphs that Baker Mayfield's probably going to return. Like I can't imagine Evans re-signs with the Buccaneers one day after saying he wants a franchise quarterback and not knowing what Baker Mayfield's going to do. I think that like he either talks to Mayfield or talks to the team and he got a really good indication that Mayfield's going to return. And it's not like Mayfield's a franchise quarterback either by any means, but Mike Evans did produce pretty well with Mayfield and he got to the second round of the playoffs. So I feel like in Mike Evans' mind, he's like, oh yeah, I've done well with this guy. Might as well re-sign with the team. So I think that makes sense. It's just unfortunate that he's going to be stuck there for a while. A couple of years, I guess, but at the very least, because like the Buccaneers are not going to go anywhere. They're kind of like in the Saints category of like being like stuck in the 8-9 quagmire or something like that. Like they're going to be 8-9, 9-8, like at best. For a while, just because like they don't have great talent, but they have enough talent not to be terrible. That's kind of like the Saints are right now. The Steelers, if the Steelers didn't have Tomlin, they would be in the same area. Just like they can make the playoffs with Tomlin, but it's like one of those teams that like I feel like the Buccaneers would have been better off tanking, just like letting Evans go, getting the third round comp pick. I really thought they should have traded him last season, but they started well. They got some lucky wins. And so they weren't really in a position to trade Evans, but they really should have been because they weren't as good as the record indicated. So I think this is a mistake, even though like keeping Evans, I understand like the fans love him. They don't want to see him go. But he's going to leave eventually. At some point, he's either going to just want to leave for another team or he's going to retire. And I feel like they're just delaying the inevitable here. And, while the fans do get some equity in watching him play, it's going to be on a mediocre team. And I think, just from an outsider's perspective, I think it would be better off if the Buccaneers just tanked, got one of the quarterbacks next draft, like whether Drew Aller or Shedeur Sanders or maybe someone else who comes up. We don't know it at this time, but I think the Buccaneers need a franchise quarterback, and they need some other pieces too. Like they just got Shaq Barrett. They need offensive line help. They need younger receivers. Evans and Godwin are both in their 30s now. I'm not like a huge fan of Rachaad White either. Their defense has some holes, especially in the secondary. So this team is like pretty far away from being a Super Bowl contender, even though they got to the second round of the playoffs. So that's why like I'm not crazy about this grade, but I do get it. Like I do understand like pleasing the fans. So I'm not going to grade this poorly. I understand it. All right. So Texans re-signed Dalton Schultz, 3 years, $36 million. So I'm usually against big deals to tight ends. They often don't pan out. Just look at what the Patriots did. They signed a couple of big priced tight ends a couple of years ago. It's Hunter Henry and was it like Jonnu Smith or something like that? And like those guys just didn't pan out for them. Henry's done okay at times, but those were mistakes. And like I called it at the time, and like Patriots fans were angry at me, but it's almost always the case where if you overpay tight ends who's like not elite, and I'm not talking about like Travis Kelce or Mark Andrews, I'm talking about like these like mid-tier, these like above average tight ends who get like these insane contracts for some reason, like they never work out. So on one hand, I wanted to grade this poorly, but Dalton Schultz and CJ Stroud had such great chemistry together last year. And CJ Stroud is a young quarterback. He's entering his second year now. I think it would be a mistake to take a reliable weapon away from him, especially given that this draft class doesn't have much talent at tight end outside of Brock Bowers. And so like the Texans are not going to be in a position to get Bowers ever because they draft in the 20s. So unless they move up for him, which I wouldn't move up for a tight end, like they're going to be stuck without a good tight end if they would have let Dalton Schultz walk. So I get the signing. So like I'm willing to excuse this contract is $12 million for a tight end like Dalton Schultz. I think it's an overpay, even though Schultz is a good player, like for sure. I'm not calling him a bad player or anything. I just think that like paying a tight end this much is often a mistake, but I think the Texans are an exception here. And it's not like egregious or anything. If this is like 18 million a year or 19 million a year, like I think that'd be way too much. But 3 years, 36 million, it's like it is doable, I guess. I'm okay with it. The next one, speaking of tight ends, the Redskins signed Zach Ertz today, 1 year, $5 million. It's kind of a surprise. Like I kind of forgot about him. I know he signed with the Lions in the playoffs because the Lions lost one of the backup tight ends, Brock Wright, I think. And then some people thought that Zach Ertz was going to actually play in the NFC Championship. In fact, Kenny and I talked about Zach Ertz as a possibility on DraftKings. We're like, he was obviously going to be the stone minimum, and he would just fit a lineup. And we're like, oh, he only needs to catch like 1 or 2 passes to kind of pay off because he was so cheap. but he ended up not playing for the Lions. So he's technically former Lion Zach Ertz, which is kind of weird to think about. But the signing is fine. There is. I don't want to say there's risk. There's definitely not risk for a 1-year deal worth $5 million, but there is the possibility that this signing just doesn't do anything. Like Zach Ertz is 34, or he's going to be 34 very soon. And so at this point, he may just be done, completely done. And he had some good games last year, like 2 or 3 games for Arizona. He did somewhat well, and then he got hurt, and then Trey McBride came in and did a lot better than him. But we did see some glimpses that he could be okay. Now, every year, once you get into your mid-30s, there's definitely a possibility for like complete regression, and like Ertz could just not get open at all and just be a waste of a roster space, be a waste of $5 million. So like this is not by any means like all upside. But there is some upside. I do like that Ertz has experience in Cliff Kingsbury's offense. Not that Cliff Kingsbury's offense is any good, but he does know the system. So getting a player in who knows the system is pretty viable. It's pretty good, I think. And also Ertz is kind of like a stopgap. Like I expect the Redskins to draft a tight end, maybe 3rd round, which I have. I think I haven't taken Jatavian Sanders in my mock draft. But it's either, I think they take a tight end like 3rd, 4th, maybe 5th round. I think 2nd round's too early. Like I don't really see a 2nd round tight end out or higher outside of Bowers, who's probably going to go in the top 15. But like I don't have a tight end in the 2nd round. So the Redskins who really need his tight end could draft 1 3rd, 4th round, and that player is probably not going to be ready to start right away. So it makes sense for Ertz to be the starter, at least in the first half of the season. And then, if he does not do well, or if he gets hurt, they could put in the rookie, kind of like the Cardinals did with Trey McBride. Now, Trey McBride was in the second year, I think, or maybe 3rd year, but he wasn't a rookie, but still, he was able to learn behind Ertz, and we saw what happened. So, maybe Ertz will rub off on the new tight end, and they'll have similar success there. All right, so the Bills made a couple moves. They re-signed David Edwards. Actually, the Bills cut Tre'Davious White, Mitch Morse, and Jordan Poyer today, and among others. There was a special teamer that they cut as well. A couple special teamers they cut, but those are the 3 main guys: Poyer, White, and Morse. And that's what happened. I mean, we were talking to Kenny a couple weeks ago about the Bills salary cap situation, mostly the Saints salary cap situation, because the Saints are like 80 something million over the salary cap. And the Bills were next after that. I think they were like 45 million over the cap. I think we have it right here, actually. So I don't know if maybe this is not updated, because it says the Saints don't have, says the Saints are only 17 million over when they're 85 million over, but it says the Bills are 9 million over still. I don't know if that accounts for today. It doesn't say, but it's at least before the Bills were like 45 million over the cap. I think I know what happened. It was because there's more cap space available than they thought. I guess that makes sense, but it still doesn't explain why the Saints don't have the worst situation. But anyway, like the Bills, they were in a dire cap situation, so they had to make those moves. Tre'Davious White is a really good player. I was kind of surprised that he's 29 already. I thought he's like 27 or something, but he's already 29. He's in the past couple of years, he's torn his ACL and Achilles. So, like, I can understand why they cut him. Plus, they have Rasul Douglas now. It's just a shame that his career has gone sideways since those injuries. But I feel like the Bills are selling low on him, and maybe they don't have a choice. You kind of sometimes can get into that situation where you have to sell an asset and you don't really want to, but you're selling low, and it's just unfortunate. And I think the Bills are in that situation with Jordan Poyer. He's 33. And they have a viable replacement. I'll get to that in a second. And then Mitch Morse, who's not a great center by any means, but he's been like a rock solid, like reliable center. He's like probably like a league average starting center. And so like losing him, I think, is a big deal as well. So the Bills are going to have to find a replacement for him. And here is an offensive lineman who not going to be a replacement for Morse because he's not a center, but he could start and someone else can move to center. So David Edwards, 2 years, $6 million. I think this is a solid move. But David Edwards is a really good backup because he can. First of all, he's not a bad player, and second, he can play in multiple positions. He can play guard and tackle. So that um, sort of flexibility is pretty important for a reserve. And I think 2 years, 6 million is a pretty decent price for him. This is not like a great deal or anything, but I think it's kind of an essential move, especially after the Bills traded Ryan Bates. And I guess I'll discuss that in a second as well. But yeah, losing Ryan Bates, who's like is a really important backup for them, was something that like made this more essential. So I do like this move. It's not great, like I said, but it's a fine move that they had to do. Cameron Jordan restructure. Okay, it makes sense. Um, I don't know like why I don't feel like it wouldn't make that much of a difference because like they were dead last in cap space by like a wide margin. They were like 40 million behind everyone. But I mean that would have a big impact for sure. It just I feel like I don't know, something else happened or maybe the data was wrong. I don't know. But thanks for heads up about that, Dana. All right. So the other move here that the Bills made, they re-signed Taylor Rapp, 3 years, $14.5 million. And so yeah, I talked about how they cut Jordan Poyer. Poyer's 33. Taylor Rapp is 26. So obviously much younger. He's in the prime of his career. I wouldn't say he's as good as Poyer, but I think he gives the Bills more bang for their buck at the moment because like Jordan Poyer could easily fall off a cliff right now. Like he's 33, in the mid 30s, players decline rapidly. Safeties can usually play longer, but you never know. Poyer could just get he can get hurt more often, or he could just decline. With Rapp, you're not worried about that. And Rapp before was he was a decent starter for the Rams, so he has starting experience. And I thought that like he was one of the better backup safeties in the NFL last year. He signed a 1-year deal with Buffalo. I was kind of confused as to why no one wanted him last offseason, and he signed a 1-year prove-it deal. And I guess he proved it to Buffalo because they thought he was worth a contract that's about $5 million per year. I think that's a really good bargain. So I give this a B plus. The other grades outside of Robinson got Bs. But this was I think this is better. And I think that like he's probably going to outplay this contract. I'd be pretty surprised if he doesn't. Like Taylor Rapp's a solid player. He's not great by any means, but he's pretty good. And getting like a pretty solid starting safety at less than $5 million per year, I think it's a pretty good deal. And I want to talk about the trade that happened. That involves the Bills as well. They traded Ryan Bates to the Bears for a 5th-round pick. And so, yeah, this is why David Edwards signing was more important. And I was kind of confused about this for the Bears because I know the Bears wanted Ryan Bates. They tried to sign him a couple of off seasons ago, and they just didn't get him. Buffalo got him instead. And here, like it comes full circle. The Bears get Ryan Bates from the Bills. And so like I get it. Like I get the Bears wanting to upgrade their offensive line. That's been a problem for them. They need to protect Caleb Williams and just kind of make sure that he doesn't fall into like David Carr or like Zach Wilson or like name any quarterback, a young quarterback who hasn't been protected well and has struggled as a result. So I don't know if he's going to start for them, but like at least he's going to be a really good backup. So that's important. But what I don't get is that like I feel like the Bears could have signed someone comparable to Bates and not given up a 5th-round pick. Like a 5th-round pick's not going to kill them, but it just seems like an unnecessary use of resources just to give that up for Ryan Bates when like you could probably find a few guys on the market who were just as good or maybe even slightly worse than him. And I'd rather just sign one of those guys. And maybe you're going to pay a little bit more upfront for them. But you're not going to give up a 5th-round pick, which, it could end up being a solid backup, or who knows, like maybe could be a starter. I mean, there have been plenty of 5th-round picks who've been decent starters over the years. So I just didn't quite get this one for the Bears. I gave it a C. Like I said, I don't hate it, but I just don't understand why they did it. For the Bills, it's an A minus. I mean, it could be an A even, but like they got a 5th-round pick for free almost. It's not quite for free, but like, Ryan Bates didn't start for them last year. So they're basically giving up a backup for a 5th-round pick, which is, it feels like the going rate, but if a guy wasn't playing for them and they have another good backup lineman and David Edwards, it feels like a good move to make for Buffalo. So I think the Bills won this trade for sure. Uh, Bryce says Buffalo needs to draft well to complete the season, to compete the season. It's rather a lot of holes to be filled with no cap space. Yeah, that's going to be super important. That's something the Rams did to get out of their situation. The Rams were in a similar situation last year when they had no cap space and they had to cut a bunch of guys. They traded Jalen Ramsey, where they let Jalen Ramsey go, and so like they lost a lot of talent. But the Rams were able to compete this year because they drafted so well. They got like Puka Nacua. They got a bunch of guys on defense who played really well. And they got Matthew Stafford to be healthy, which helped. But a lot of the young guys like really stepped up, and like that, you're right, Bryce. Like that's something the Bills really need to do, or they're gonna be like stuck in like maybe that cap purgatory, or that 8 and 9, 9 and 8 purgatory I was talking about. Like I don't think they're going to be quite as bad. Like they have Josh Allen. As long as they have Josh Allen, I feel like they can make the playoffs at the very least. So maybe they're going to be like on Pittsburgh's level, like 10-7 every year, maybe an 11-6 here and there. But like with their lack of depth as a result of losing all these players, like it's going to be tough for them to go to the Super Bowl. And like that's the challenge with these quarterback contracts, where you see teams with quarterback contracts in the rookie years be really competitive. Like I'm talking about the Bills with Josh Allen, like over the past several seasons. You have Joe Burrow with the Bengals. Russell Wilson won a Super Bowl, and he went to a second one in Seattle. The Eagles won when Carson Wentz was their quarterback. Like I feel like as long as you don't have Mahomes or Brady, you need a quarterback on a rookie contract to be a Super Bowl contender these days. And like, but the problem is like once you re-sign that rookie to a huge deal like that Josh Allen got, like you're stuck in a really bad cap situation. And so like you said, Bryce, you need to draft really well, or you're just stuck. So yeah, it's like the Bills front office is going to have to do a great job this offseason, or they're going to be they're going to be 10-7, maybe 9-8 every year. They're just going to be stuck there. So yeah, it's super important for them. Dana says Ezra Cleveland trade means my Redbirds have tackle look elsewhere for a left guard. I think that the Ezra Cleveland trade. Yeah, they the Redbird. I assume you're talking about the. That was last year. I assume you're talking about the Cardinals. I was confused as well. Yeah, Cardinals. Yeah. I think I don't know what you think about this, but I saw that Mike Jurecki, who's he gets like everything right for Arizona. He's been on the Marvin Harrison Jr. train for the Cardinals, the number 4. But I saw his mock draft that he did. He did one round, but he posted on Twitter, and he said that he has the Cardinals going Tyler Guyton at 27. He's a tackle from Oklahoma. So like the Cardinals just drafted Paris Johnson last year, and so having them go tackle back-to-back years was I think interesting to see. But I guess it kind of makes sense because Kyler Murray's been hurt so much over the years that like he just can't stay healthy, and the Cardinals like need him to be healthy to compete. And I think that makes sense. So I don't know how you feel about the Guyton draft pick, but I do think the Cardinals go offensive line early in the draft for that reason. Like maybe it's not Guyton, who was I don't know, he's kind of like a disappointment at Combine. Because like everyone kept saying, "Oh, Guyton's going to run great," and like not that a 40 is so is like so important for linemen, but he ran like a 5.27 or something like that. So it's kind of that was a disappointment, but it was the lack of athleticism. I guess he did well in the other drills, but the lack of athleticism in the 40 was a little disappointing. But like I said, like 40-yard dashes mean nothing for linemen. And in fact, like Rich Eisen and Daniel Jeremiah and everyone else seem to be like pushing toward not running, not having the offensive linemen run 40s because like there like 3 guys got hurt. It was kind of a disaster. So maybe they won't even run the 40, but Yeah, I think that Guyton could be a good fit for the Cardinals or another lineman. DJ Humphries won't play till late, if at all. Yeah, um, might be a post June 1st. Yeah, I could see that. I could see him being gone. And so yeah, it just it makes sense to have like two brand new tackles. And the Cardinals are in a good spot at 27, I think, because, especially if they want to tackle, because there's so many good tackles in this draft that like naturally one or two of them is going to fall toward the end of the first round. And so like yeah, they could get a good offensive lineman there. So yeah, I think they're in a good situation. But they just need Kyler Murray to stay healthy. Like I said, just he's not played a full season yet, which is like pretty remarkable. But I would love to see him play a full year. It just hasn't happened. But it could change. Like everyone was bearish on Tua Tagovailoa entering the like last season, because he also had never played a full season, but yet he did. And so like that could always change. So and I've given this example so many times. Like there was a running back for the Jaguars a long time ago named Fred Taylor, and he would always get hurt all the time. Everyone called him Fragile Fred. And he was like so risky to draft in fantasy. Just is like it felt like you were just risking way too much. And then like there was a 3 or 4 year stretch where he just didn't get hurt at all. And so I guess like he lost the nickname, like, but it just goes to show that, injury luck can change, and, maybe that'll change for Kyler Murray. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the free agency signings that have happened. But yeah, it's gonna be pretty nuts next week. There's gonna be so many moves. Jacob's gonna be on Tuesday to discuss them. Gonna talk about with Kenny on Wednesday, I assume, and then Tom on Thursday. And I'll have grades for everything. Gonna have grades for all the signings, all the trades that happen. Free agency rankings will be updated. I'll show you. So I currently have I used to have I used to do it like all manually, but my development team, they developed this where's the free agency signings? They basically developed this Excel file that I could just update, and it just updates like automatically. So we used to have like a top 100, because like I just didn't feel like like making all these changes to like so many files. I have to open up the top 100 file and like make changes to it. And like now it just, you can keep going down and down. I don't even know how far this goes. It goes to it's a top 540. And those are just, it's not arbitrary, those 540. Those are all the players who are free agents. There are 540 free agents. And I have them all ranked here. So yeah, you can get that. So there are some guys who are franchise. Brian Burns makes sense. Jalen Johnson makes sense. L'Jarius Sneed, who it sounds like he's going to be traded now that he's been franchised. The Chiefs need some cap space, and they have some young corners, so I get it. Michael Pittman franchise. There have been some rumors that the Colts are going to go after AJ Brown from the Eagles. If there's like some stuff in the locker room and the Eagles don't want AJ Brown. That's been speculated. I talked about that with Eitan Shander last Wednesday. So you can go back in the archives and just hear it. But there's a chance that AJ Brown leaves. I actually think he's going to stay, but the Colts could trade for him. And if they Pittman and AJ Brown, like that'd be pretty sick for Anthony Richardson. Antoine Winfield franchise makes a ton of sense because he was so good last year. It's only 26. Kaimi Fairbairn re-signed. This is one signing I did not talk about. I just don't care about kickers. I actually kind of forgot about it. I was gonna post like a silly grade saying like it's D grade. Like I don't like kickers, but he's a really good kicker. So if you're gonna pay someone more than $5 million per year, a kicker more than $5 million per year, might as well be Kaimi Fairbairn. But yeah, I don't know. It feels like you can get a kicker anywhere. T. Higgins franchise. We thought maybe he'd move elsewhere, but he's going to probably be back another year. Justin Matabuke, who was really good last year, only 26, so he has so much potential. Mike Evans was re-signed. I think I saw some other red here. Kyle Duggar, transition tagged. It's a little bit different, but he's going to be back. Decent safety there. Schultz, we talked about. Emmanuel Mosley re-signed for 1 year. I was trying to find the compensation for that. I didn't. But yeah, I assume it's a good deal. And this is a nice re-signing for the Lions. Mosley is a good slot corner. And so getting him back for one deal, and if I assume for a cheap price, like 3 or 4 million or 5 million, seems like a really good deal for the line. So I'd give that like an A. But like I said, I didn't find like the compensation for it. Let's scroll down here, finding more red. We have Demarcus Robinson, talked about him earlier. Taylor Rapp, talked about him. And then, yeah, we get to the guys who don't have recaps, who are all 1.5 stars or less. Albert Akwegbunam, he didn't even play last year. When they signed him, I was like, oh, this is pretty intriguing, especially if Dallas Goedert goes down, but he just didn't play. So I don't know why they brought him back. They had David Edwards talked about him. Jalen Reeves-Maybin, 2 years, $7.5 million is a little too much, but it's not the end of the world. Nelson Aguilar re-signed. He would do some. It's funny. Aguilar would have somewhat of a decent game in DFS, and then people would play him. He'd be highly owned for a 3K guy, and then he wouldn't do anything for a few weeks. It's kind of it's pretty much his career in a nutshell. And yeah, that's it. So does Kristian Fulton bounce back after a bad year? I maybe I don't know. I could see that. I'm not high on Tennessee, and they have they have a new coach there. And I think they're gonna miss Mike Vrabel more than they think. And I feel like Vrabel was a guy who could have gotten a lot more out of the defensive players than other players and then other coaches have done. I don't want to compare him to Bill Belichick, but Bill Belichick did that all the time. He would, a classic example would be Patrick Chung, who was a really good player for the Patriots. Then he signed with the Eagles and he was terrible. And then he re-signed with the Patriots and he was really good again. Just great defensive coaches can get a lot out of their players. And while Mike Vrabel is not Bill Belichick, he was still a really good defensive coach. And I think that losing him might make Fulton bouncing back. It could be tougher for him than it would have been with Vrabel there. So, we'll see. We'll see. Maybe he does bounce back, but I don't know. Okay, so Ted Ginn was really good for one team and just didn't do well on other teams. And I think he cost me more money than any other player. He would always have a big game when I faded his team. And then when I bet on his team, he just wouldn't do anything. Is kind of my arch nemesis for betting. So I'm kind of glad that he's not in the NFL anymore. Cassandra says that transition tag was the sort of weirdness I thought the Patriots would have moved on from without Bill Belichick. I guess so. I'll say this about Belichick. They use he made some very sketchy moves with receivers, like N'Keal Harry, letting Kendrick Bourne go, letting Jacoby Myers go in favor of Juju Smith-Schuster over the years. He's drafted so many bust receivers. Tyquan Thornton is one. You can name several others. But what he did really well was identify defensive back talent. Christian Gonzalez fell in the draft last year. People forget that. The Redskins took Emmanuel Forbes over him, and Gonzalez fell to the second half of the first round. And the Patriots took him, and Gonzalez was incredible when he played last year. And just like Bill Belichick was so good at finding defensive back talent. So the Patriots will miss that aspect of his managerial status, but maybe they will finally have some good receivers with Belichick gone, because I don't know why. For some reason, he could just not identify receiver talent outside of that one offseason when he got Randy Moss and Wes Welker. And Randy Moss is a no-brainer, but Wes Welker was a really good find for him. And then he turned Julian Edelman from a quarterback to a receiver. So he's had some decent moves with receivers, but for the most part, he's drafted so many bad receivers over the years. So I always thought that the Patriots should have outsourced their receiver scouting to some other team or something, or someone else. Because like even the Steelers, like maybe they could have like hired someone from the Steelers front office who was responsible for the receiver picks, because it felt like whenever the Steelers made a draft choice at receiver on the second day of the draft, like they would hit like a home run almost. And like the Patriots would never do that. So if I were them, if I were Bill Belichick, I'd hire someone from that front office or another front office that did well with receivers, because it just, for some reason, he just had that like the blind spot for him. So yeah. All right. So I guess that's about it. We're going to do a short episode tonight because tomorrow we're going to probably do a long episode with Tom. So it's always a lot of fun. We'll have some crazy conversations, I'm sure. Get to see what Tom's been up to the past couple of weeks. I haven't really talked to him all that much because he was visiting his folks here in PA. And so yeah, I get to hear about that and Game of Thrones stuff that he's been watching, and whatever nonsense we talk about. It's always fun. And then like I said, maybe on Saturday Kenny will be back. If not, he'll be on the show, I'm sure, next week. So yeah, thanks so much for commenting and watching. Please hit like, subscribe, comment below, share this video, visit the link in the description for the merch store. And word of mouth is great. If you know someone who may like the show, please send the link to them. It'd be really appreciated. But yeah, thanks once again. And I will talk to you tomorrow.